Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a complete one-shot revision video of the chapter thermodynamics, and this thermodynamics is from the chemistry, not from the physics. So let's start. Okay, so first of all, what is thermodynamics? Now thermodynamics is a branch of science that is concerned with heat and its relation to energy and work. Okay, now this is the basic definition of thermodynamics. Then what is chemical thermodynamics? Now all the chemical reactions, they are associated with some energy changes, and they are concerned, like energy is released when the bonds are broken, and the energy is released when bonds are formed, and then energy is consumed when bonds are broken. So all these deals with energy, and that is what is thermodynamics about. It talks about energy, it talks about work done. So basically the laws of thermodynamics, they deal with the changes at the macroscopic level. Now what is macroscopic level? Now macroscopic level means it involves a large number of molecules, like not the microscopic or not the level at which we deal with the molecules or the atoms. We deal at a larger level, like we are talking about pressure, temperature and all that. So that is macroscopic level, that is at a larger level. So that is the laws, that is thermodynamic laws are only applicable for the macroscopic level, not these atoms, molecules or the microscopic level. Okay, now what is the scope and the limitations of thermodynamics? So first of all, we'll talk about the scope of thermodynamics. Now this thermodynamics, it gives a explanation about the properties of matter, and then it predicts the feasibility of a chemical reaction. Now what do I mean by feasibility? See, feasibility means whether a reaction is going to occur, that is, it is going to take place or not. So thermodynamics will tell us about the feasibility of the reaction. Then it even predicts the extent to which a chemical reaction can take place. Okay, now what are the limitations of thermodynamics? Now it fails to tell us the speed of the reaction. That is, it will tell us about the to what extent the reaction will occur. It will tell us if the reaction is going to actually occur or not, but it will not tell us about the speed of the reaction, that is at what rate the reaction is going to occur. Then it even fails to tell us about the path of the reaction, that is what path is followed for the reaction to take place. Also, it is not applicable to the microscopic system. Now as I said you just now, that thermodynamics laws is only applicable, as I told you, the thermodynamics laws, it is only applicable at the macroscopic level. Okay, that is at a larger level. Okay, now these are some of the basic terminologies which are very important in this chapter, thermodynamics. So first of all, what is a system? Now a system refers to that part of the universe in which the observations are made, and a surrounding refers to that part of the universe which is except for the system. Like suppose you take a beaker and you do an experiment in that. So here the beaker is your system, and the leftover part except for the beaker comes in your surrounding. Now when you do system plus surrounding, what you get is the universe. Now the wall that separates the system from the surroundings is called as the boundary, and this boundary can be in any form. Now let us talk about the types of system. Now there are three types of system which you get to know in this chapter. One is the open system, another one is the closed, and the third one is the isolated system. Now what do you mean by this open system? In open system, the exchange of matter and energy takes place between the system and the surroundings. Okay, the exchange of matter and energy can take place between the system and the surroundings. Suppose you have an open beaker and in that you perform the experiment. So there can be exchange of matter and there can be exchange of energy also between the system and the surroundings. Now what is a closed system? In a closed system, there is no exchange of matter, but exchange of energy can take place between the system and the surroundings. Okay, so what happens in this is that suppose you have a closed water bottle with hot water. Now the water becomes cold after some time. So what happens in this is that there is an exchange of energy over here. Okay, but there is no exchange of matter. So that is what is called as a closed system. Now third one is an isolated system. Now in this system, there is neither the exchange of matter taking place nor the exchange of energy will take place. Like suppose you have a thermos flask. Now in that the hot water is going to remain hot for long hours. So what happens is that neither the exchange of matter is happening in this situation, nor the exchange of energy is going to happen. So that is what is an isolated system. So these three are important to remember. They can ask in your exam also. Now we have got the different types of thermodynamic processes. Now again here some terminologies come which you need to know. Okay, so first of all, what is this thermodynamic process? Now operation that brings a change in the state of the system is called as a thermodynamic process. Okay, now first of all, what is isothermal process? Okay, so first of all, what is isothermal process? Now the process which is carried out at constant temperature is known as isothermal process. Isobaric is the process which is carried out at constant pressure, and isochoric is the process which is carried out at constant volume. Now all these three are important and you have to remember them. Isothermal is for constant temperature, isobaric is for constant pressure, and isochoric is for constant volume. Now these three you have to remember, they are important. Now we have got the adiabatic process. Now adiabatic process is the process in which there is no heat transfer between the system and the surroundings. Okay. Now we'll talk about state functions and path functions. Okay, so what is the state functions and what is this path function? Now first of all, the state function. Now these functions are called as state function because their value will depend upon the state of the system and not how the state has been achieved. And the examples of these state functions are pressure, volume, temperature. Okay, whereas path function is just the opposite. The functions that depend upon the path to which that specific value has been achieved. And the examples for this path function is work and heat. So only work and heat are two examples that you get in this path function. Rest of them are mostly state functions. Now let us talk about internal energy. Now internal energy is the total energy which is contained by a thermodynamic system. Okay, and this internal energy depends upon the quantity of the system, and it is called as an extensive property. Now here what do you mean by an extensive property? An extensive property is like it depends upon the outer mass or temperature of the system. Okay, the outer thing of the system, that is an extensive property. Now the absolute value of internal energy here cannot be determined. Okay, you can directly not determine the absolute value of internal energy. And the internal energy of the system, it may change in three cases. First case is that when matter enters or it leaves the system. The second case is when heat passes through the system, that is in or out of the system. And the third case is that when work is done on or by the system. So these three are again important. They may ask in your exam that on what things do the internal energy system depend, on what happens when the internal energy system of the internal energy of the system changes. So these three cases, the internal energy of the system will change, that is when matter will enter or leave the system, or when heat is going to enter or leave the system, or when work is done on the system, or when work is done by the system. Also the total energy of a system remains constant. Now if the energy is released by the system, then the change in the internal energy. Now this is the symbol for change in internal energy. See, you cannot determine a delta and a U. Now you cannot determine directly the internal energy, the exact internal energy, but you can definitely determine how much is the change in the internal energy. Okay, and if the energy is going to be released by the system, then the change in internal energy is negative, and if the energy is absorbed by the system, then its internal energy change will be positive. Okay, so you can remember like this, that if anything is released, that is if anything is lost, then its internal energy change is going to be negative. But if the energy is absorbed by the system, that is if something is added, then the internal energy change is going to be positive. So like that also you can remember the symbols. Again, this is important. What did I say? I said that if the energy is released, that is if energy is lost, then you will go in negative. So in that case your internal energy change is negative. But if the energy is absorbed by the system, then in that case energy is being added to something. So if it's added, it is plus. So internal energy change here is positive. And again, one important case over here is that whenever in question they give you an isothermal process. Now isothermal means constant temperature. So in question, whenever they have given you this constant temperature, you have to take the change in internal energy as equal to 0. Okay, so this is very important when you solve your questions, because it is a very important thing for solving the tricks and all that. So whenever you see in the question an isothermal process is given, immediately you have to take the internal energy, that is the change in the internal energy, as equal to 0. So this is going to help you a lot. So again, it is important. So remember this. So as I told you in the starting itself, this is a revision video. So I'm going to tell you about all the important topics briefly, which is very important from your examination point of view. Now let us talk about the internal energy change by work. Now adiabatic wall. Okay, so first of all, what is this adiabatic wall? Now in the starting I told you about adiabatic process. See, adiabatic process is a process in which this heat exchange, which takes place between the system and the surroundings, that is 0. Okay, so this adiabatic wall is also a wall which will not allow the transfer of energy in the form of heat, but it will definitely allow the work to be done. Okay, because they didn't say that the matter exchange will not be allowed. They just said that the heat exchange will be 0. Okay, heat exchange means heat we refer to as Q. The change in exchange of heat, that will be equal to 0. So this is the condition for adiabatic walls or adiabatic process. Okay, now this isolated system does not allow the transfer of heat and work. Okay, now in the starting also again I discussed that isolated system is a system in which neither the exchange of heat will take place nor the exchange of matter is going to take place. That is what is an isolated system. So if there is no exchange of heat, or if there is no exchange of matter taking place, then that means there will be no work done on the system. Okay, now ways to change the internal energy is by doing some work on the system. Now if there's a system and its internal energy is there, so if you have to change that particular internal energy of the system, then you have to do work on the system. Some work has to be done, only then you can see some change in its internal energy. Now that work can be done in the form of a mechanical work or electrical work. Okay, like suppose mechanical work in the sense you churn the water, so you change its internal energy. Electrical work in the sense you put an immersion rod and the water is heated, so that is some electrical work which you do to change its internal energy. Okay, now this is an adiabatic system where I said you that the Q is 0, that is, this is the heat exchange or the heat transfer between the system and the surroundings, that is 0 in an adiabatic system. Now in both the cases, the change in the state of the system is the same irrespective of the path that is taken to change the state. And I'm talking about these two cases. Okay, so in both these cases, the change in the state of the system is going to be same irrespective of that path which is taken to change that particular state. Okay, now here the change in internal energy, you can say that it is equal to the adiabatic work done. Now this is again an important formula you have to note down, that the change in internal energy is equal to the adiabatic work done. Now here the positive sign expresses that work, that is the adiabatic work done, is positive, that is when work is done on the system, and if the work is done by the system, then the adiabatic work is going to be negative. Okay, so again, if you have confusion in remembering the signs, I'll tell you a trick, small trick, that when work is done on the system, okay, it is done on the system, that is something like, it is being added, you can say like that. So if it is done on the system, it will be positive. So in that case, the work done, okay, 1 minute. So if some work is done on the system, then in that case, your work done is going to be positive. Okay, now when work is done by the system, okay, when work is done by the system is doing work, it is losing something, it is losing some energy, something you can say. So here work done is going to be your negative. Okay, that is what it says, that the positive sign will be there when work done is on the system. Okay, that is when work is done on the system, the work done sign is going to be positive. But when the work is done by the system is doing work, it is using some of its energy, something is getting lost, so in that case your work done is going to be negative. Now here you can see that it's written that Q is negative. Q here is heat transfer. Q is negative when heat is transferred from the system to the surroundings, and it is positive when the heat is transferred from the surroundings to the system. Now again, if you're having confusion over here, I'll tell you what is happening. That again the same thing is happening, that Q, which is the heat transfer. Now this is your system, and all this surrounding over here, rest of the system is the surroundings. Okay. Now when the Q, or the heat transfer, that is the heat is transferred from the system to the surroundings. Now what happens is, from the system the heat is transferred to the surroundings, that is the system is losing some heat, the system is losing some energy in the form of that heat. Now it is losing some energy, it is going in negative. Okay. Now when you lose something, you subtract something, right? You use that negative sign. So here the Q is going to be negative because heat is lost by the system. That is, the heat transfer is from the system to the surroundings. Heat is losing that, the system is losing that heat to the surroundings. Now what happens is, when the heat, that is when the heat transfer is from the surroundings to the system. Okay, this is the surroundings, this is the system, and the heat transfer is from the surroundings to the system. Now this, what happens is, the heat is getting added to that system. Okay, now when it is getting added, it will be positive. So here your Q is going to be positive. So the same type of ideology you can apply to all the signs, that is when it is work is done on or by the system, or when heat is transferred from surrounding to the system. So you can apply this kind of ideology, that when something is done on the system, that is something is getting added up, it is going to be positive. When something is done by the system, that is something is getting subtracted, it is negative. Now let's talk about the first law of thermodynamics. This is only the first law of thermodynamics, that is change in internal energy is equal to Q plus W. Q here is the heat transfer and W is the work done. Now one important thing about here is that here you can see that Q and W, that is heat transfer and work done, both of them are path functions. Path functions means they will depend upon the path, which, that is, they follow the path, not upon the final state of the system. Okay, they will depend upon the path. And change in internal energy is something which is a state function, that is, it will depend only upon the state of the system, not how that particular state has been achieved or what path was followed to achieve that particular state. Okay, it will not depend upon that whole path which is followed to achieve that state. Whichever path you follow, no matter what, the change in internal energy is going to be that only, same only, because it is a state function. But here Q, which is heat transfer, and W, which is work done, these both are path functions. Okay, that is, they depend upon the path. Now the energy of an isolated system is again constant, because I told you isolated system means there is no exchange of heat, there is no exchange of matter. So there is no exchange taking place, that means the total overall energy is going to remain constant. Now we'll talk about the change in internal energy by the pressure volume work. So as I told you that work can cause the change in the internal energy of the system. And here in this case, that is the piston 1 or the pressure volume work, we will focus on mechanical work. And the pressure volume work is the work done which is by the expansion of gas. Okay, now this piston 1 is again important. But here if you don't understand this kind of experiment, then you can just remember this final formula. Otherwise, for your understanding, I'll just explain this kind of experiment. But if you don't understand this, don't worry, because what here matters, or what is important is that you have to remember this formula over here. Okay, so what happens in this experiment is that, suppose you have a piston. Okay, you have a test tube, you have a piston. Now first of all, the volume of the gas was this V initial. Then you apply some external pressure on that with the help of that piston. You push the piston inside, and now the volume is only this much, that is V final. Okay, and this is because you have applied some external pressure on that. Some work is done on that piston. Okay, now what happens is, suppose how we derive that formula, I'll tell you. First thing is change in volume, we'll write change in volume is equal to area into length. Now you know that volume can be written as area into length, and change in volume is nothing but V final minus V initial. And the volume of pressure also we know it is force upon area, and force on the piston, if you want to write, you can write as the external pressure which is applied on the piston into that area of the piston, okay, because we're talking about force on the piston. So when you want force on the piston, there was some external pressure which is applied, so that external pressure into area, that will give us the force on the piston. Now we will derive work done on the system by that piston, okay. On the system means, I told you, when work is done, something is done on the system, it will be positive. When something is done by the system, it will be negative. So we are basically deriving that work done on the system by that moving piston. So we know that work done formula can be written as force into displacement. This is what we had learned in physics. So here force is F and displacement is that length of that piston. Now force again can be written as this P external into area. That is, force on the piston can be written as that external pressure which is applied into area of that piston. So that is force, and then the displacement, that is L, length. Now here in the starting I told you that area into length is what, nothing but volume, that is change in volume. That is, volume can be written as area into length, but here we are talking about the change in volume. So here area into length will be equal to the change in volume. And now I have put here a negative sign, and this is because this negative sign here is because when you see the change in volume, V final was greater, okay, there was more volume in the final state, there was more volume in the initial state, and then when you applied some pressure on the piston, the volume decreased, that is, the final volume was less. So when you see the change is coming negative, okay, it's V final minus V initial, but when you see the final volume is actually less than the initial volume. Now when this happens, your change is going to be negative. That is why we have put here a negative sign. So this formula for work done is important, that work done is equal to minus P delta V. Now many people here, they get confused in this between physics and chemistry. Now what happens in physics is that your work done will be equal to plus P delta V, okay. Your work done in physics is positive P delta V, plus P delta V, but in chemistry it is minus P delta V. So this is a small change which you have in the thermodynamics of physics and chemistry, so don't be confused in that. In physics your work done will be equal to plus P delta V, and in chemistry that work done is minus P delta V. So here, since we are talking about chemistry chapter, so we will write minus P delta V. So this is the work done on the system. Now since this work is done on the system, so when something is done on the system, it is positive. So here this work done is going to be positive. Now in this whole thermodynamics chapter, the sign matters a lot, because in that sign only your whole answer is going to depend. Now this minus P and delta V. Now again here delta V is negative, because I told you final volume is less as compared to the initial volume. So here what is happening is that since final volume is less, the change in volume is negative, that is, volume is decreasing. So this is work done on the system. Now when work is done by the system, that is in case of expansion of gas. Now in this case we are talking about contraction of gas, because some external pressure was applied on with the help of that piston, and the volume, it reduces. Some work is done on the system. Now we'll talk about expansion of gas. Now in case of expansion of gas, the work will be done by the system, okay. Now in this case what will happen is that, since in case of expansion of gas the work is going to be done by the system, so when the work is done by the system, work done will be negative, okay. Work is done by the system, that is, system is doing something, it is going to lose some energy, so it is going to be negative what, work done is going to be negative. Then minus P delta V. Now in this case your delta V will be positive, because what happens is that in expansion of gas, your initial volume was less, but when the gas was expanding, it expanded and the final volume has become more. Suppose I'll show you over here, your initial volume was only this much, but in case of your final volume it is this much, so your final volume has increased, your final volume is more than the initial volume. So in this case the volume, change in volume is, it is increasing, so the change in volume is going to be positive in this case. So here what is important is that work done is equal to minus P delta V. This is the formula which you have to remember, this is the main thing. Now when it comes in the question, you have to see whether the work is done by the system or whether the work is done on the system. In the question it will be given, and accordingly you have to take the value of Suppose the value of work done will be given in the question, and accordingly you have to see whether the work is done by the system or whether the work is done on the system, and then accordingly you have to take the sign for work done, and the volume sign also you'll get to know from the question only. But the main thing over here is that formula, that is work done is equal to minus P delta V. Now this formula over here is important, like this formula will be used when your pressure is going to be constant, okay, and there is only the change in volume. But what if your pressure is also variable, okay, there is a change in the pressure, then in that case you can use this formula, that work done is equal to minus P integration of the external pressure times dV, and the integration will be from V initial to V final, that is initial volume to final volume. So when your pressure is variable, this will be your formula. See, when your pressure is constant, your formula will be minus P delta V. In this case your pressure is constant, only the volume is varying, so you can use this formula. But what if your pressure is also variable? So in that case work done will be equal to minus integration from V initial to V final, integration of P external dV. So this is the formula when your pressure is also varying. Okay, now this was the process which is irreversible. Now we'll talk about the reversible process. Now you have only one reversible process formula which is important. Now the formula is over here, that is work done in case of reversible process is minus 2.303 nRT. Now here N is the number of moles, R is that universal gas constant, and T is the temperature, and then you have log of V final by V initial. Okay, this is the formula which is very important. This is the work done in case of reversible process. Now till now we were talking about irreversible processes work done, that is work done which is minus P delta V is the work done for irreversible process. But what if your process is reversible? Then in that case this formula is going to come, that is minus 2.303 nRT log V final by V initial. You have to learn this formula is important. If you want the derivation you can see here. So the derivation here you can see that see work done by reversible process, you can write it as integration of P external dot dV, and this P external can be written as P plus of minus dP. dP is that change in pressure into dV. Now this change in pressure, since you can assume it to be very small, so you can take it as integration of P dV from V initial to V final. Okay, now as you know from the ideal gas equation, PV is equal to nRT. This is what is your ideal gas equation which you studied in that gas laws and all that. So this PV is equal to nRT. So from here we can derive the formula for P, that is P is equal to nRT by V. We can derive that formula, and in place of this P over here we can place this nRT by V, and this minus will be outside. And now this nRT by V is going to come outside because these three are going to be constant in this situation, that is number of moles here, universal gas constant, and even the temperature. They are going to be constant, so they will come out of the integration, and this will become 1 by V dV. Now when it is 1 by V integration, it will become natural log of V. Then this will become ln V final minus V initial, and when you have log V final minus V initial, you can write it as log V final by V initial. And then comes your formula that work done by reversible process is minus 2.303 nRT log V final minus log V final by V initial. Now where did this 2.303 come from? Since you had here natural log, so to convert that natural log to this log, you have to multiply it with 2.303. So that is a conversion thing. So work done by reversible process is this one, and this is important, you have to learn it. Now what is the difference between this reversible and irreversible process? See, reversible process, first thing we know that this will follow the reversible path. In case of irreversible, it will going to follow the reversible path. Now the reversible process, this is important, that the reversible process will take infinite time. That is, it is going to take a lot of time. But in case of irreversible process, it will take a finite time, that is a specified amount of time. Now reversible process here is totally imaginary. That is, what happens actually is that in nature, whatever the processes are taking place, most of the processes, they are they are irreversible processes, and these reversible processes are mostly imaginary. Irreversible, all the natural processes that take place in the nature, in the surroundings, are all irreversible, and these reversible processes are purely imaginary processes. Now in case of reversible, the system is always in equilibrium, always it is in equilibrium. And in case of irreversible process, the equilibrium will exist only in the beginning and at the end. Okay. Now in reversible process, your work obtained will be maximum, and in case of irreversible, your work obtained is not going to be maximum. Now this is the basic difference between your reversible and your irreversible processes. Now let us talk about the work done in case of free expansion of gas. Now in questions you will find that sometimes they will say that the work is done in, what is the work done in this free expansion of gas. Now when I say free expansion of gas, it means that the expansion of gas which is there, the expansion of gas is going to take place in vacuum. Okay, whenever I say there is a free expansion of gas, it means that the expansion of gas is going to take place in vacuum. Now when it is vacuum, your external pressure will be equal to 0, because there is, in vacuum you don't have any kind of pressure, so the external pressure is going to be 0. Now when the external pressure is going to be 0, you know that the work done formula is minus P external delta V, and when your pressure is 0, external pressure is 0, that means the whole work done is going to be 0. And from the first law of thermodynamics, we know that the change in internal energy is equal to Q plus W. Now in case of this free expansion of gas, since the external pressure is 0, due to which the work done is 0, so if the work done is 0, your delta U, that is the change in internal energy, is going to be QV. Now this V means at constant volume. Now why am I saying at constant volume? Because see, when the external pressure itself is 0, that means there is no pressure which is going to be applied on that system. Now when there is no pressure is going to be applied, the volume will remain the same, that is the initial volume and the final volume will be equal to 0. There is no change in volume because there is no external pressure which is going to be applied on, on that particular system, so there will be no work done on that. So if no work is done, how will the change in volume take place? So your delta U is equal to QV, that is at constant volume. Now here there are certain points to remember for the first law. See, first thing is, I told in the starting, whenever you see this isothermal word, immediately you have to write delta U, that is change in internal energy, to be equal to 0. Now why is that? Because there is some relation between change in internal energy and temperature, and when there is isothermal means constant temperature. So about this you will learn this in physics, that relation what is between delta U and T, that's a direct relation. So whenever you have isothermal process, that is the change in temperature is 0, that time your internal energy is also going to be 0, that is the change in internal energy is going to be 0. In case of isothermal, that is at constant temperature. Now in case of isothermal, irreversible change. First thing, what is irreversible? Now we know the work done in irreversible process is minus P delta V. I told you this formula is for irreversible processes. Okay, so this formula is for irreversible processes. The work done in irreversible process is minus P delta V. Now again, this process isothermal irreversible. Now in case of isothermal, I told you delta U is 0. So from the first law of thermodynamics, we know that delta U is equal to Q plus W. Now when your delta U is 0 because of isothermal process, your Q will be equal to minus W. Okay, this W comes here and this becomes Q is equal to minus W. Now we know that in case of this irreversible process, your W is minus P delta V. But when your W has got a minus sign, it will be equal to plus P delta V. Okay, because W is already having a minus sign. So this minus sign will be removed. So your work done will be positive P delta V. And delta V is V final minus V initial. So that is what I have written over here, simplified way in the last manner. Now in case of isothermal irreversible change. Now when it is isothermal irreversible when it is isothermal reversible process, we talked about irreversible process. Now we'll talk about isothermal reversible process. Now we know that for reversible process, the work done is equal to minus 2.303 nRT log V final by V initial. This is for reversible process. Okay, this is the work done for reversible processes, that is minus 2.303 nRT log V final by V initial. Now in this case, what is happening again, it is isothermal. So again the same process, that delta U is 0. So when delta U is equal to Q plus W, delta U is 0. So Q will be equal to minus of W. Okay, Q will be equal to minus of W. Now here this W in this case is 2.303 nRT log V final by V initial, and there's even a minus sign. So when your work done is already having a minus sign, this will become plus 2.303 nRT log V final by V initial. Okay, your Q will be equal to negative of work done, that is plus 2.303 log nRT log V final by V initial. Then one last thing over here is that for adiabatic change, adiabatic walls or adiabatic process, we know that whenever you see this word adiabatic, immediately you have to say that del Q will be equal to 0. Whenever you see this word adiabatic, immediately you have to write Q is equal to 0, just like whenever you see this word isothermal, you write delta U is 0. Similarly, whenever you see this word adiabatic, immediately you have to write Q, that is the heat exchange, to be equal to 0. Now what happens is, we know again delta U is equal to Q plus W. Now in case of this adiabatic process, your Q becomes 0. So directly you know that delta U is equal to work done, and at this time it is adiabatic work done. So this is what in the starting itself I had discussed, that delta U is equal to adiabatic work done. So this is how it is achieved, that in case of your adiabatic process, since the Q is 0, that is the heat transfer between the system and the surroundings is 0. So in that case delta U is equal to work done, and this work done is known as adiabatic work done. So these are some important points which are to be remembered. You should know them for solving any question. Now most of the chemical reaction that takes place in open air, it takes place at constant pressure. Now here I am talking about most of the chemical reaction. I am not saying that all the chemical reaction will take place at constant pressure. So here we'll derive a relation between enthalpy. Now this enthalpy is represented by H, that is change in enthalpy we write as H. Now we'll derive a relation between enthalpy and this internal energy. So it so happens that in exams also they may ask you that derive a relation between this enthalpy and internal energy. So in that case you have to write this whole thing, that is this whole derivation. So they may ask you this for 2 mark questions, that is derive the relation between enthalpy and internal energy change. Now I'll tell you how this happens. See, first thing is we know this first law of thermodynamics, that is change in internal energy is equal to Q plus W. We know this law, right? Now this Q, now in this case we are going to consider as the common case, that is just now I told you that in most of the chemical reactions is taking place in open air, it is taking place at constant pressure. So here in this case we will assume constant pressure. So we are assuming here constant pressure, that is why I have written here QP. Now this work done becomes minus P delta V. Okay, whenever this constant pressure I told you, we have to use this formula minus P delta V. If the pressure is not constant, then we will use that integration thing. Okay, integration minus P external dV whenever the pressure is not constant, but here in this case pressure is constant, so we will use minus P delta V. Now this change in internal energy can be written as U2 minus U1, that is U final minus U initial, you can write it as anyway. Now this becomes QP and that is equal to minus P, again this delta V can be written as V2 minus V1. So when you arrange this thing, that is this P part, it comes over here P into V2 minus V1, and when you arrange it like this, U2 plus PV2 minus U1 minus PV1, this becomes H. This is your enthalpy, that is U plus PV is your enthalpy. So from here you get this relation, that is delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. Again this is one of the important formulas which is going to be used, that is your enthalpy delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V, change in internal energy plus pressure constant into change in volume. This is your important formula which is going to be used in most of the places. Now in the last line, as you can see, I have written here that QP is equal to U2 plus PV2 minus U1 plus PV1. Now what is this U plus PV? U plus PV is nothing but your enthalpy, that is H. Now since this is U2 plus PV2, you can write it as H2, and this one can be written as H1. So that is what I have written, that QP is equal to H2 minus H1, that is QP is nothing but change in H, that is change in enthalpy. So here one important thing comes here, that the heat exchange at constant pressure will be equal to change in enthalpy, and the heat exchange at constant volume is change in internal energy. These two things are again important. Now I told you about this one before also, that at constant volume, that is the change in volume is 0. Okay, and when change in volume is 0, your work done will become 0. When work done is 0, from the first law, delta U will be equal to Q volume. Okay, I told you just now, just 2 minutes ago. So these two things are very important, that is the heat exchange at constant pressure is equal to change in enthalpy, and the heat exchanged at constant volume is equal to change in internal energy. Okay. Now here talking about the signs, your delta H is going to be negative in case of exothermic reaction and it is going to be positive in case of endothermic reaction. Now again the same thing happens, that in case of exothermic the heat is released, that is heat is lost. Now when something is lost we write it as negative, right? So here delta H in case of exothermic reaction, that is when heat is released or heat is lost, in that case it will be equal to negative because something is lost. Now in case of endothermic reaction, the heat is given to the system, that is the heat is consumed by the system. So when something is consumed, something is added to that system. So when it is added, we use the positive sign. So in that case, delta H will become positive. Okay, it will become positive, and in this case it is going to be negative because heat is released. Now let's talk about one more enthalpy formula, and this enthalpy formula can be used in case of gases. Okay, now the derivation here is that VA, VB, NA, NB. Now what is this VA, VB? VA is the total volume of gas reactants, VB is the total volume of gas products. Similarly, NA is the number of moles of gas reactants and NB is the number of moles of gas products. Now from this ideal gas equation we know that PV is equal to nRT. So PVA is equal to NART and PVB is equal to NBRT. And from this first and two, if we subtract first one from the second one, we get as P delta V is equal to delta nRT. Now we know that our enthalpy formula, that is delta H is equal to delta U plus P delta V. This is our enthalpy formula. So from this we can write that delta H is equal to delta U plus delta NGRT. Now this is one important formula and this is going to be used a lot, that is delta H is equal to delta U plus delta NGRT. This is going to be used in case of gases, that is in the reaction when the gases are involved. This formula is going to be used a lot. Now what is delta Ng over here and how to find it? Delta Ng, this thing is going to be applicable only for gases, and the formula for delta Ng, that is how to calculate it, you have to do number of moles of gaseous products minus number of moles of gaseous reactants. Suppose you have this equation 2H2 plus O2 gives rise to 2H2O. Now if I ask you to find the delta Ng of this reaction, how will you find? Now we know the formula of delta Ng, it is number of moles of gaseous products minus number of moles of gaseous reactants. Okay, only gaseous products and gaseous reactants. See the words. So first thing is how many gaseous products are there. Now if you see in the product side, you only have a product which is in the form of liquid. There is no gaseous product over here. So your gaseous product is 0. Now minus number of moles of gaseous reactants. Now how many gaseous reactants are here? See, you've got 2 gaseous reactants. Now if you add the number of moles, here you have got 2 moles of H2 plus 1 mole of O2. So 2 plus 1, that is 3. So delta Ng is equal to minus 3. So in this case your delta Ng will be equal to minus 3. So that is how you calculate the delta Ng for a particular reaction. You only have to check for the gaseous products or gaseous reactants, not the liquid form or the solid form. The liquid form and the solid form you have to ignore basically. That is why this formula is said that it is applicable for gases, or it can be used for gases. So this is again one important formula, that delta H is equal to delta U plus delta NGRT. So this again you mark it as important and remember this formula. Now what is extensive property? Now in the starting I told you that extensive property is something which depends upon the outer appearance, that is on the outer quantity or the size of matter which is present on the system. Okay, and this will depend on the outer quantity or the size of the matter that is present on the system. And some examples of this extensive property is mass, volume, enthalpy. So this mass, volume, enthalpy, all this depends upon the outer thing, that is the quantity, or you can say the size of matter. That is extensive property. Now when you talk about intensive property, from the name itself you can say that it is a property whose value does not depend upon the size of matter, that is does not depend upon the external things, it depends upon the internal things. Okay, so it will not depend upon the size of the matter which is present in the system, or it will not depend upon the quantity of that particular system. So some examples of this intensive property is again pressure, temperature, density. So this pressure, temperature, density are examples of extensive property. Now here one interesting thing to note is that if you see in case of density, density is equal to mass upon volume, you know that. Now in this case, mass and volume, what happens is that we know that mass and volume, they are extensive properties. Okay, mass and volume, they're extensive property that will depend upon the size of the matter and all that. And density is an intensive property. So from this we can derive a very small relation which is important in case of your MCQs. You can get it, that extensive upon extensive property will give us an intensive property. Okay, this is an important thing or an extra thing which I am saying you, that when you divide one extensive property with another extensive property, what you get is an intensive property. So this is one important thing. You can mark it as a trick or small thing to remember things. So in density case also this is what is happening, that mass and volume, both of them were external properties, and mass upon volume, when you do, you get density. Density is an intensive property. So with this we have completed the part 1 of our full revision, and the rest of the topics I will discuss in the part 2 of the video. And for finding the link of the part 2, I will give it in the description box, so you can go and check out the link of the second part of the video over there. So I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any doubts then let me know in the comment section. So thank you for watching this video.